Hi, this is Doug Hutchins with Kentwood Real Estate here with your January Castle Pines real estate market update. There's a few things I want to talk about this month on this video, but the key takeaways are that we expect home prices to stay relatively steady for the rest of 2023 in the city of Castle Pines, and we do expect fewer sales in the year of 2023 in Castle Pines. And I'm going to break that down with a few data points here to explain why we believe that and talk to you about the underlying metrics of the market that support prices staying relatively flat for the rest of 2023. But I want to start out right now with interest rates. And interest rates are what are driving our market and driving the current conditions that we're seeing, which is low buyer demand and few sellers wanting to sell their home. So as you look at this chart, this is a chart that started back in 1971, and it shows your 30-year mortgage rates. And what's really fascinating with this chart, it's over 50 years of data, and what is interesting is that rates didn't drop substantially below 6% until 2009. So for 38 years, the rates were above 6% historically. We have forgotten how much that the low interest rates of the last few years are unusual. And if you look at the rates of recent, rates have popped back up again to above the 6% line. They peaked at 7% a couple months ago and have dropped back down to 6%. But if you look at most forecasts for interest rates for 2023, we expect interest rates to stay between 5% and 7%, which historically is not a bad rate. It just is we've gotten used to cheap money in the 3% and 4% rates of the past few years. Buyers are starting to get comfortable with this, but still it's limiting demand in the marketplace because buyers' payments have gone up substantially due to these higher interest rates. But the same reason that buyers aren't entering the market is the same reason that sellers are not wanting to sell their home. Home sellers that currently own their home and have an interest rate of 3% or 4% on their 30-year note, they don't want to move into something different and have their monthly payments go up substantially due to higher prices and higher interest rates. So people are staying put. So this is creating the dynamic of fewer homes coming on the market. If we look at the stats in Castle Pines for the original communities, and then I'll talk about the new communities later, and original communities are generally the ones to the west of I-25 built prior to 2010. And if you look, the average home price in January was $954,000. This is down from last January about 5%. However, because there's so few home sales in the city of Castle Pines, it's really hard to look at these numbers and say with significance that prices are up or down from month to month. On a quarterly basis, we know that prices are down a little bit, and if you look at the Metro Denver data from December to January, which is a much bigger sampling of homes sold, that average prices were down about 2% from December to January. A couple other interesting things to note in this stat is average days to sell has gone to 53 days this January compared to 25 last year. And that's what we're seeing in general is it's taking substantially longer for homes to go under contract. Now we're pushing the 50 to 60 day market, 50 to 60 day range for most homes in the market. And then months in inventory though is still amazingly low. So again, this is what I was talking about that should support prices through 2023. Despite the fact that buyer demand is slowed, there's not as many homes coming on the market, and so months in inventory is staying low at less than 1 month. Typically, for prices to fall, you need to have months in inventory exceeding 5 to 6 months. And let's talk about a little bit about the active, new, and sold listings here. And that's this NICS chart that I have in front of me, or have up on the screen here. And specifically what we're looking at is the orange line on the top is active listings. And one crazy stat to note is that in January of this year, there were 13 active listings on the market. In January of 2009, so January of 2009, kind of in the heat of the meltdown of the real estate meltdown in the 2008, 9, and 10, there were 144 active listings. So 10 times more listings were on the market in January of 2009. But the point I'm trying to illustrate here is what you see inside that red box. And the green lines are sold listings, so homes that have sold. The blue lines are new listings. And then the orange line is active inventory. And what you're seeing is that the green and blue lines are very close together. And that just means that the number of new homes coming on the market, there's still enough buyer demand to pick those up. But we are seeing fewer and fewer homes come on the market because, again, sellers are not wanting, or current homeowners are not wanting to sell their home. The next stat here, or the next sheet I have that's up on the screen, what this shows is active listings on the bottom on the orange line, and the top line is the blue is number of homes sold in the prior 12 months. And typically what we see in Castle Pines is that we're generally selling around 200 homes every 12-month period within the original communities. However, sales have slowed. And what you're seeing is that last year there were only 168 homes that sold in that 12-month time frame. And looking back over the past 15 years, we never have dropped below 150 homes selling. And I would expect, though, this year that I bet we only see 140 to 150 homes sell in the original communities. Again, just because home sellers are not wanting to put their home on the market. Therefore, fewer homes selling, therefore buyers won't have as much selection, and even with limited buyer in the market, the inventory levels are going to stay low, which should support prices for the rest of 2023. Let's talk about the new communities here for a couple minutes. And again, the new communities in Castle Pines are generally to the east of I-25, which is mainly the canyons, but you also have the home communities along Legay, which include Castle Pines Town Center, the homes being built by Lennar, Century, and Taylor Morrison. And if you look in those communities, the average price there, January of 2023, is down 10% from January of 2022. But again, the issue with the new communities is that the builders are really the ones that the majority of these sales are new construction sales, and the builder pricing is more static. And so again, depending upon what mix of homes are selling, it can really change that average, because there's still not a lot of homes selling in the new communities on a monthly basis. So these monthly averages can have a huge swing to them. So again, I would say that it's probably very similar to the Metro Denver numbers, that we're probably down just a little bit in the month of January, but not substantially so. What's interesting is that we're seeing more and more resales in the new communities. The builders obviously are still building properties, but existing homeowners that have bought from the builder, they're now ready to transition out of the neighborhood or upgrade their home, or they're being relocated for work. Whatever the reason is, we're seeing more of these resales pop up. And if you look in 2022, 45 of the 121 sales that were in the MLS system were from resales from homeowners selling versus the builders selling. And remember as well that in the new communities, builders don't put all of their inventory into the MLS system. So there were more sales than just 121 sales in 2022. There were probably about double that number, because the builders only put in typically a third to half of their sales. Of the active listings at the end of January, half of those were resales versus new construction. The key thing to remember too is in the new communities, prices are still being driven pretty heavily by what the builders are charging. And the builders do not like to lower their base prices. So what builders do, instead of lowering their prices, they're going to give the buyers more. They're going to give them incentives to buy down the mortgage rate. So a lot of builders now are offering $20,000 to $30,000 incentives. They're not changing the base price. They're just providing other monies to the buyer to entice them to purchase. And some of them are starting to do backyard landscaping, which before you had to do that on your own. The other key thing in here is months in inventory, though, is still running below 2 months in the new communities as well. And again, that kind of inventory level is going to support prices staying relatively static for 2023. The last chart I want to show you here before I wrap up is with the new communities. It's the same chart that has new listings, sold listings, and active listings. And what you are seeing a little bit more is there's a bigger gap between, there's more new listings coming on the market in the new construction neighborhoods or the new communities than what's being sold. So our inventory is starting to build a little bit. I expect that that'll continue to happen a little bit more, that inventory levels will be a little bit higher in the new communities, just because again you have builders coming on the market with new inventory, and you have existing homeowners that are coming out and deciding to sell. But again, to wrap up, it looks like home prices, because of limited inventory, should continue to stay relatively steady through 2023. There will be a little bit of variation, but nothing substantial. And buyer inventory, buyer selection is going to be limited, because there's not going to be a lot of homes on the market, because current homeowners are going to choose to stay put and keep their low interest rate and their low mortgage monthly payment. If you have more questions about the markets in Castle Pines, or would like to know exactly what your home will sell for in current market conditions, please reach out to me and give me a call at 303-886-3437, or you can email me at doug@DougHutchinsHomes.com. Don't forget as well that we have a great website with more information about Castle Pines and its market at discovercastlepines.com. In addition, when we come out and take a look at your home, we can give you some tips and tricks on things to do to help your home sell for more money and to sell faster in these current market conditions. Thanks a lot, and I hope you have a great day.